We are live on YouTube. Welcome to KTLO, Keeping the Learning On. It is Friday. It is the end of March in 2021. And hey, here we are. Unbelievable but true. It is a year later. It is episode 51. 5-1. Going forward, and for those of you under 35, that is a gear shift for a manual shift automobile.
Should be able to tell what brand of auto it is from the shift pattern.
No, it's pretty standard. It's
reverse upper left is a little unusual.
Yeah. I always do myself. I am that way. I have to go upper left to go in reverse, but that's just me. And as usual, we have the core four, the magic foursome, the fearsome foursome. Patty Blackstaff in Western Canada. We have Greg Sanker in Western United States. We have Simone Jo Moore in Western France. And we have me in Western South Carolina. So we're all Western. No country, just Western. It's probably a joke our international group will not get, but you know, it's okay. And this is, you know, it's just amazing that we're here. If you would like to get a hold of us, that's the easy way to do it. You can tweet with KTLO Learn as the hashtag. You can address us individually, collectively, impartially, partially, morning, noon, and night. I have no idea what any of this means, but here we are.
Going forward.
But going forward, we'll figure it out.
Roy, that's not the script we went over in practice. I don't know where you're at.
So here's the thing. First of all, let me just clue you into the fact that there is no script.
There is no script.
And there is no practice. But today we're going to talk about some of the things that we have done over the past year here. And some of the what did Alfredo do?
He brought a cat.
Oh, I didn't actually bring the cat. It just it imposed itself.
Well, that's how cats are.
Yeah.
But it's interested in the cat on your shirt. That's it. It says, I'm a puma. Cats think they're tigers. Anyway, so we're
live. Here we
are live. We're relatively live.
Alive or alive?
It's I don't know if we're alive, but we're live on YouTube and
Secret. We're really AI in disguise.
We are not AI. We are, in fact, human. We can speak normally.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, we have totally lost it. This is what happens after a year of doing these shows, you see.
Or what? Because, you know, Patty just did the robot and it was really remarkable. I'm not going to put her on the spot and ask her to do it again, but it was really good.
We'll get her to later on.
Yeah, put me on gallery view. I'll be a dork.
For those, all right. We're putting you on gallery view right now, and we're going to have you do the robot.
I want the record to show that Kathy turned off her camera as soon as the robot started. I think she was going to be called on, which is pretty much guarantees that I'm going to do that later in the show.
Just to get me back.
He's doing a tit for tat. It's going to come.
We are not robots. We are not robots. Okay.
I'm going to spare you in not seeing Domo Arigato.
Thank you.
Wow.
Roy, were you in charge of this episode, or what's going to happen here?
I mentally somewhere
Sorry,
in the
I
back of
just
my
can't.
head, I thought we were.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what we
it's
were.
time, Simone. Do it. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee.
Cheers.
So,
Sanity in a
cheers.
cup.
Yeah.
So what's different about today? I mean, normally we're fairly disciplined and organized. Today, we exploded. And this is, there's a reason for that, of course. We have been doing this for a year. How did it start? Who wants to tell the story of how this all got started?
Well, it's
Anybody?
your fault. You should start it.
No, Patty's version is the best. It's more complimentary. So,
So there's this guy named Roy that I knew for 10 years on Twitter. And we became friends. And all of a sudden, one day I got really lucky, and we were able to meet each other in person. And I came running into the hotel and saw him across the room and couldn't believe how lucky I was to finally meet this guy in person. And at that same conference, he introduced me to two other lovely people. I met Simone and I met Greg at that very same conference. So here we are, four speakers trying to figure out what we were doing and saying and getting together and laughing, and all brought together by one guy. And the connector. And then the conversations started, and they started a little before me. Simone and Greg and Roy had started a conversation, and then one day, both Greg and Roy reached out and said, I think you should be a part of this conversation we're having. And so we started having a conversation, and we started talking about things in the industry, things that were both troublesome, a few baffling shenanigans, and then we started talking about things that we'd really like to see and ways that we'd like to do this. And one day someone said, we should just do this for other people, this conversation. And that's how we started, I believe. And I don't know who that was. I'm pretty sure it was Roy.
Actually, do you know, it was the same conference when you said you'd known him all this long, through the ether. And it was the same for myself. I'd been working with him for, I think it was 14 years at that point. And it was the very same conference that I met face to face for the first time with Roy. So there was obviously a universal, thing. It was that thing that was going on, Roy.
You see, I have this piece of plastic that I carry with me at all times. It kind of fits over my upper body, and it projects something that looks like an aura, so that I fake people out that there's actually something going on here. That's the key.
See, the thing is, I only learned that recently. I've got mine on order, but unfortunately, Amazon Prime is a little slow delivering my aura.
Actually, from the look of that light behind you, Greg, it's starting to work. It's coming along.
Nice.
Coming
That's
along.
cool.
I wonder if it changes colors at all.
Sure it does.
True color changing aura. That see, my aura has no remote control. It's just
a big thing of plastic.
It's just a thing.
Greg is a remote control.
But yeah, so I guess getting started with the live streamed version of the so he can't get it off strobe now.
Poor Roy. Every time he starts talking, we distract him. I got robots. You got lights. Simone's got booze. It's good.
See, the thing to do would be to get the strobe light and Patty doing the robot at the same time, because you know how that looks.
It's shining all the way over here to France. Greg, look,
See?
it's bouncing
See
off
that?
all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you from? Oh, okay. Yes. Yep.
Kathy's not on mute.
Kathy's not on mute.
Just went on live broadcast.
Okay, we can only hear.
And that's
One-
today. And that's today.
That means she needs to do the robot later in the show. Right now.
That girl's fitting right in with the rest of us today.
Yeah.
All right, Roy, take it away. We have a plan. Don't we have a plan?
I have a plan, and it involves a window in a high building, but
Don't worry.
anyway,
No.
going back to the beginning,
The saisons.
this global pandemic thing came along, and places started shutting down and everything. And we said, Well, we're going to keep on going, and we adopted this acronym from IT, right? Keeping the lights on, KTLO, and we said keeping the learning on. That's what we'll do. We'll talk. We'll have these meetings, and anybody that wants to show up can show up, and we'll record them, and they'll be there for posterity. And so here we are, 51 episodes later. We skipped the holidays. Okay, so it's only 51. It's not 52.
But it is a full year.
It is a full year. We started on our first one was on March 27th, 2020. And we've had lots of folks join us, and we'll get to a little more about that later. But one of the things that we have tried to do over the past year is talk about issues that popped up, that bubbled up to the surface with us, and are current in our industries. And let's take a little time today and talk a little bit about what we do individually, and we'll expand this to our honored guests as well. I think we need to talk a little bit about what we do, and I think I'll put it on speaker view for YouTube at this point. And why don't we start with you, Patty? Just because I'm going to put you on. I always put you on the hot seat first.
Put me on the hot seat.
Tell us what you're doing right now.
So what am I doing right now? I am in the throes, buried and deep into a marketing plan for a book I wrote this year called Hacking You, a Digital Leader's Guide to Self-Awareness. And I am also working on the program development of some of the pieces from that book that contribute to a full-on model for training and development for leaders in the digital space. And it's a 4-part piece that goes from self-awareness to team awareness to system awareness to business awareness. And so I am very deep in that and working hard to put all the pieces together and launch. So that's what I'm in the middle of. I own a company called Global Sway.
So that's a lot of awareness, Patty. Should we refer to you from now on as Aware Wolf? Because there is no stupid pun or joke I will not chase. It's like putting steak tartare in front of a tiger. It's just what happens.
Well, you know what we say at our company? We say globally, you should just sway into whatever.
Sway into it. Indeed. Well, let's go over to Greg. Greg, what are you working on?
No earthly clue what I'm doing. So the last year has been a really interesting year. So I left my position as a CIO of a state agency in the state of Oregon after spending almost 3 years in total doing that. And one of the reasons I stepped out of that space is because my work in the industry has kind of really grown. It's kind of taken off, to be very, very honest with you. And I'm looking for, how do I leverage what I learned, which I'm going to touch on just briefly, and help other organizations be excellent in what they do. Because here's what I learned. The distance between being an operations manager, Daniel's going to shake his head on this one, or nod his head, is the distance from moving from an operations position or a VP or director into the CIO, into the executive role, just a little bit of altitude. But the vantage point difference is amazing. It was shocking. I wasn't prepared for how different that perspective is. And what I've found is what the requirements are of a digital leader, like Patty was talking about. What the requirements are of digital leadership are vastly different than what we've seen in the past. And I can't emphasize vastly enough, because we're moving into, and frankly, we've moved into a digital era. And we're just now waking up as an industry. We're waking up to the fact that what we've been doing is not going to cut it going forward. This whole pandemic has just ripped open, and you're seeing the ugly underside of prehistoric leadership models and thought processes and even practices in what we do that just aren't going to cut it. And my concern is organizations who aren't moving rapidly right now to adapt to new ways of behaving and new cultural elements within the organization are simply going to be irrelevant and obsolete. And in the case of private sector, where there's a for-profit company, they're going to go out of business. It's simply that stark. Talent will leave those organizations. Talent is pursuing leading edge organizations where they can be wholly themselves, where they can be truly excellent. So what does that mean for me is I'm stepping up my focus on excellence in leadership and organizational leadership, particularly in a digital world. So that's what I'm working on. And there's more to come on what that actually looks like. I'm not quite as far as Patty is. Though my publisher is already frustrated that my manuscript is not complete for my next book. I can't really talk about that, but that will hopefully be sometime in 21. You'll see a new book from me. And don't tell the publisher, but I'm already working on the next book. So that's where I'm happening.
I wonder if if in addition to the publisher being frustrated about this, your reviewers might be frustrated as well, wondering when is this.
I would have no idea. The thing is,
but I didn't say that out loud. It's
oh, there's so much going on this call.
So much going. There's ways too much going on. Simone, what is happening in your magic world?
Oh, what is happening? I think the last few months have really helped me hone, I guess, the thoughts around what I would call rediscovering humanity. And that's why I focus around humanizing IT, because we've all been so tech driven, I think, over the decades, and it is a wonder. It's an amazing thing what tech does. I love it. And I love how it can make a difference to ourselves. I think what's happening in this, I'm quite excited about what I hear, especially from the younger generations coming into the workforce, etc., is this, we're going to do it our way. We're going to do it the way it suits us. We're going to do it so the technology works with us, not us work with the technology. And I think that's been a big shift to see that they're going to work with the technology, not the other way around. And I think when I think about how I'm using my mixology of the various frameworks is because people are discovering that there are these unique formulas. It's not just one framework over another and stuff. This is actually, it's something that's got to come together for who they are. So one of the key things I've been finding myself doing a lot is the workshops with people and organizations, actually looking at what is their skyline looking at right now, because a key thing for me has always been that a business's culture is representative of what's going on in the social context. So I'm trying to see this from the larger light of what's happening in the context of where the organization is living and breathing. But at the heart of that too, the understanding that inside the business culture is really a reflection of the changes in our people. And those people make up the society. So if you're not tapping into that people thing of what's going on and the changes happening within your people's world, their world, then you're not going to be able to make the shifts or the dynamic shifting that you want to do. So I'm really focusing a lot around that resilience approach. Now, you can't give someone resilience. You have to provide the environment for them to go through that and build that in themselves. As our world changes, so do we. And so I really want to help organizations adapt and build resilience in humanizing their IT. So focusing a lot too around the ethics in AI, so the ethical AI and emotional AI. I'm doing a lot of work around empathy and that type of thing at the moment. So very happy that my old skills, well, they're not really old, they're always there, but bringing in all my HR stuff that I had prior to IT and mixing that all up and everything. So it's good fun.
You people aren't texting that AI will not kill us. I am not so sure. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yes. So that's the core four. We've talked about what we're doing and the directions that we're headed in.
You didn't tell us what you're doing, Roy.
Well, you're right. If I must. running a business advisory practice focused on a couple of specific areas: customer experience, employee experience, customer service, of course, which underlies that, and appropriate technology. As Simone mentioned, technology has been a very strong focus for a lot of organizations. And a lot of them, as we know, who have worked in IT service management, organizations a lot of times will put the technology first. First thing they'll do is, hey, we've got a solution, let's plug that in. And of course, it's not going to fix anything, because the problem they're trying to solve is not a technological problem. It's something else. It's organizational, it's process, it's system, it's whatever. So there's that. And working currently on a bunch of different projects from the book perspective. I am under contract on a book on digital transformation called Digital Transformation: Defining Success and Avoiding Failure, which will be out later this year. Also writing a foreword for a book, an IT service management book for someone that we would all recognize, which I won't talk about because I can't. Also working on researching a book for another friend, which I can't talk about. And also doing some other book projects. So lots of writing, lots of talking online. There was 2-day period I spent 14 and a half hours on Zoom.
Yeah, nice.
In the course of 2 days. So it's a very busy thing. And I also doing a podcast and doing bunches of other stuff as well. So I'm a busy guy these days, which is great. I'm lucky to be able to do that work. So now I'll move on, and we shall expand to our conversation.
Pick on Kathy.
What's that?
Pick on Kathy first. She tossed something on the screen that I couldn't tell what it was. She clearly she wanted to talk.
Okay, I will pick on Kathy.
Because apparently I started it.
Well, you can laugh, and I can try and weave it into what I do, because it seems like the cat's cradle right now, entangling a necklace. Yeah.
We're so exciting. She brought her tangled necklace to the.
Well, I was hoping to wear it, people.
But it's all about Kinevin and entanglement theory.
It's it. It's quantum entanglement, in fact.
I know.
So go look that up. Anyway.
Sorry, Kathy.
So if I relate that, I focus very much on technical support, not IT support, technical support with software vendors providing service, so B2B type environment. And it is a cat's cradle. Most of the time, software engineers and support are hired for their skills to solve problems. And we forget that we have not gotten them, we're not given them the skills to get those scores that we want to get, the satisfied customers. But to get satisfied customers, you have to have satisfied employees. And I love when we were talking about, the change in people and what they want. And people want meaning from their jobs, and they're very prideful. They want to be able to do a good job. So how do they do it? And so a lot of what I focus on, besides process, I'm process obsessed. I'm also customer obsessed. Actually, I had some coworkers tell me I was customer obsessed, maybe a little bit too much. So what's in the middle is yes, I know, and that's the book I'm kind of coming out with. Talking about the technical support team in the middle of everything, and helping them shine within their organization, be proud of the work they do, give them skills to navigate tricky situations, or when they get a call, that is really intense and the media is involved, and all those types of things. But it's also about other things. And I was just on a company website, and they used my favorite word. They used the word emotion, and they were talking about patience. And that's the reality. Emotions are everywhere all the time. You can ignore them. You can try to ignore them, but they're still there. So it's giving the technicians or the support engineers the ability to listen differently, I learned at some point in my career that I listen differently than other people, and that I would be on calls, or I'd, be in person in front of the customer with someone else from my organization. And I could see that they were not connecting with the customer because they were listening differently than I would. And I found myself in those meetings, so that the customer didn't have to feel, inappropriate. I would say, well, I think, they would start answering, and I would say, if I could interject, I think what they were trying to say is, and the customer would nod their head. So it's how to really understand what the customer needs, even beyond the problem they're presenting you with, because having satisfied customers is a holistic experience. And I know that is the word we use all day, is experience. And having greatly satisfied employees that want to stay with the organization and grow, whether it's within support services or if they go somewhere else in the organization. And I didn't mention honest, Greg. One day I made the mistake. I was trying to write the word awareness and I wrote honest, and it's just kind of stuck ever since then. So it's the honest of technical support.
And I think it fits. And I think you are the honest of technical support, because what you just described is not just like good support or good customer service. It goes beyond that.
Exactly.
I look forward to that, Kathy.
Cool beans. Thank you, Kathy, for that. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how some of us met and how we had worked together across the vastness of the, what's it called? The intertubes. And one of the people that I met very early on in person is Alfredo. Alfredo and I live only a little ways apart, and we both turned up at a networking event locally here in Greenville, South Carolina. And I think we had connected on LinkedIn previously to that, and then you shared the fact that you were going to this event, and I also went to the event, and we met there and so forth and so on, and had a couple of discussions, and then you came and joined this group. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're working on and where directions you're headed in, Alfredo?
Sure. First of all, yesterday, Roy, did you take shelter also from these tornado warnings that we got yesterday?
Yes, indeed. It was a nasty afternoon and evening and night between the emergency alerts going off on the TV last night and the weather. We have a weather radio that goes off by itself when something happens. So that was going off all night long.
Oh my.
Not a pleasant day here in the South.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the content marketing manager for a company called Perspectium. Perspectium offers packaged integration solutions, package integration processes for ServiceNow customers. And so we help ServiceNow customers extract massive volumes of data from their ServiceNow instance to other endpoints, whether external data storage for reporting and analytics, or other ServiceNow instances for backup, for restore, for migration, for upgrades. And so, we saw recently, Gartner was saying that package integration processes are going to grow from 30% to 65% over the next few years in terms of the total proportion of integration projects. So we're excited that we're a little ahead of the curve on that, and excited about where we're going here in the next few years. As a marketing manager, as a writer, content writer, I take great pleasure in finding really good sentences that people craft. I enjoy really good copy. And so that's one of the things I enjoy that's somewhat related to the work I do, but also just life. Also enjoy connecting with people. And so, during this pandemic, we've done a bit of that through Zoom, and I've enjoyed hopping in every once in a while here for the KTLO shows.
Awesome. Thank you, Alfredo, and thanks for coming to visit us early and often. We appreciate the fact that you decided to join the party, as it were.
Thanks for having me.
And be our our co-representative from South Carolina, Dee Burgoyne. Dee and I'm gonna tell the backstory here. I was visiting a National Speakers Association chapter meeting in the DC area at the request of my friend Greg Gregory, who was the president of the chapter at the time. And the guest speaker, who was the president of the National Speakers Association nationally at the time, was Shep Hyken. And Shep and I have known each other for quite a while, but had never met before that weekend. And it's amazing how often this happens, that you get to know people online and then you finally get to meet them in person. But anyway, Dee came to that meeting, and we happened to sit together and got talking, and we had a lovely time and have stayed in touch, connected on LinkedIn and chatting back and forth. And Dee has been a valuable member of this group. And so, Dee, tell us what you're doing.
Well, I have a business called Burgoyne Consulting Services, also called the Compassion Projects. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. This last year has been a real transition period for my business because I had been focusing on the speaking side and traveling a lot. And like many people, I have word of the year pivoted, and I have been focusing more on being a trusted advisor to businesses, and I do that through speaking, through leading leadership retreats on Zoom, training on site, things like that. And what I train on, following about 40 years in human resources, I like to say to some people, I'm a recovering human resources professional with a special ed degree. I have come to realize that culture, more than ever, I knew it before the pandemic, and that's why I went and formed my own business. But culture is the key to a successful business. And culture isn't what you say it is. A lot of people say, okay, I've got that plaque on the wall. Here's our mission, here's our vision, here's our values, and that forms our culture. The culture is what your customers and what your employees say it is. So I'm concentrating now on how people form relationships and connections, and how that really, really happens in real life on a daily basis. Because it's those connections, whether it's face-to-face, which we counted on, or over the phone or on Zoom, it's those connections that build us and sustain us as human beings. And I've learned in my life that you can be closer with someone who's on the phone with you 3,000 miles away than someone who's sleeping in the bed next to you. It's not about proximity. It's about listening to each other, supporting each other, really hearing each other, not just hearing. So I've been teaching leaders to listen, and also frontline people to listen and hear and respond and form those connections that are they are really the hardwiring of an organization. Not the organizational chart is not the hardwire. The wiring that attaches you to your computer is not the hardwiring. The real hardwiring is something you cannot see. And it's an exploration that starts in the beginning of our careers, in the beginning of our life, and ends when we die. It's not static. It continues and continues and continues. And the smart business is working on their culture now. I have had some businesses say, well, we're going to work on culture when things are back to normal. Well, things are never.
Sorry.
You have to work on it now. So that's I'm very, very passionate about it. And it's hard to put into black and white, but when you experience it, you know it.
Yeah.
When you know
I know Kathy can hold this up, but I want to tell people, because I mentioned that this is one of the areas I'm working in, in that cultural shift, but hold it up there, Kathy. This book, 28 Ways of Compassion, is part of my leadership toolkit. And if you don't have this in your toolkit yet, if you are not being compassionate yet, if you are not employing empathy yet in everything that you do, then, just get out of here, because
It's funny. I did write that book. I forgot to say that. And when I first started writing it 6 or 7 years ago, one of the first things I did was go online and see how many books that there were out there who was talking about compassion. And it was crickets. There were not things. Now it's popping up everywhere. Too bad it took me 5 years to write my book. But anyway, however it happens, I had a serious medical diagnosis about halfway through my book, and I honestly thought that I had about 4 months left. And it was amazing to me that all I could think about was, I've got to get this book done. I've got to get this book done. So that's how passionate I am, and I believe in it, and it's a growing movement, and get on board.
Awesome stuff. Thank you. Which brings us to Daniel. Also, AKA, also known as Bat Dan, for reasons, well, we know why, or he can tell us why. Daniel, tell us how you got associated with this group against your will. I think you were probably kicking and screaming, knowing
I hit
Greg,
the wrong button.
You hit the wrong button. That's it. And tell us a little bit more about what you're working on these days.
So after 50 years of being in technology, which like just about everybody here, we're probably all passionate about what technology can do for people. I decided I was going to go and create my own business. And then COVID came, and that complicated things, because then 2 million people in London got laid off, and they all decided they were going to create their own business. So the opportunity to then ghostwrite and to ITSM or DevOps or tool vendors or whatever to share my knowledge. I did some of that. I'm doing some of that. But I think my current passion is I've got 50 years of knowledge, and there really isn't anything new anymore. These frameworks are more or less all looking the same now. A lot of the words are marketing words. And I think people are starting to realize, like all of us have said, or all of you have said, whatever you use the IT for, if you're not doing it for someone's benefit, then you're missing the point. You're deeply missing the point. So how do I share that? I work with ITSMF chapters across the UK and the EU to, facilitate webinars or sessions. In fact, I'm doing a session in 17 days, Simone.
Yes, but Dan, I'm listening.
To show, how to take advantage of principles of IT service management, DevOps value, and leadership. Doing stuff with the British Computer Society, just having fun. And I was going to write a book, but some organization that I can't mention decided that every chapter or every part of the chapter or every story in the chapter, if they weren't able to link it to something that they had created, then it wasn't going to be a good book for them to be as a publisher. So we threw that away. And I'm now working and learning from people like Greg and others on how to find a publisher that appreciates stuff. And that's that. Oh, and I was going to do all of that and be happily married forever to just like sharing stuff until last night, around 11:30 at night UK time, someone in the United States who had read my LinkedIn profile, or said they'd read my LinkedIn profile, missed the line in London. So when they called me and went, "Oh, you sound asleep. It's only 6 o'clock here," and offered me an opportunity to work with them. But anyway, moving on, back to this. how did I meet people? Roy and I stumbled into each other at a conference. Simone gave me a nickname that will probably be on my tombstone. And I won't tell you about Greg.
Do you know what? I think there's a great lesson in your nickname. Well, it's not just yours, because it's actually, there's a few of them. Now, I'd like to say, how many people out there listening might associate themselves with the grumpy old men of IT? Or grommet, as we might say. And I think this is a lesson for young people. You know, when you're a bit nervous and you see your boss in the audience, or you see like the luminaries and the leaders in the audience. Now, whether that's in the boardroom, like a team meeting, or whether you find yourself one of those new speakers at one of the conferences and you're sharing your case study or what happened in your job or what you did. Well, this is what happened to me. So I'm at this conference and it's a very small room. It's one of the side sessions. And in walks these three guys. And I've gone, oh no. And they are the three guys that had all this knowledge that I just, you want to Vulcan mind melt, just to say it all in. And in the end, it ended up as being one of the best and funniest moments of our lives. And, the peanut gallery that I had there was, I guess, some of the best support I could have had as, helping me learn and get through new presentations and stuff. So, yes, my grommet, I will always be ever grateful to you.
I think it's wonderful when we get an opportunity to have all that knowledge be so welcoming as well. I think that's the open arms of the people in our industry who have literally, just like Roy does, like Daniel has, like just scoop us up and say, hey, let's see what we can do together and let's make great. And so appreciative, honestly, of the people we have met over the few years. It's fabulous, and all of you are part of that. So thank you. We're just grateful for both your attendance and the heart that you have brought to the conversations that we have shared over the last year.
So, someone told me after service management days that, I've only been in the industry for 11 months and listening to the others who have so many more years in this, I'm really learning on not what to do, but what not to do.
That's awesome.
I didn't know if that was a compliment or not. But anyway.
Oh, that's awesome. That's exactly what you want to hear, I think.
Yeah.
That's great. And, you were recounting about, having those people in the audience in front of you. And I remember I was the closing keynote at ITSMF UK conference in Manchester a few years ago. And you were there, Daniel. And you were sitting 1, 2, 3, 4 rows back on the left side of the aisle as I was facing you. And right in the front of the audience was James Finister, Barclay Ray, Paul Wilkinson, Claire Agater. These are monster names in the world of IT service management. And it's Simon Kent had spoken just shortly before me. And I was taking a directly opposite or an angular position to his. And so he was sitting back on the right side, about 40 feet away. Yes, I can visualize all this in my head, by the way, in case you were wondering. I have one of those memories. And it's just a wonderful thing. And especially because it was in Manchester, it was lovely. And it's just a great opportunity to be able to share space with people and be able to talk, online, offline, give a talk, have people respond to it, come up and talk to you later and give you their thoughts on what you said, or point out something that they learned recently that might change your thinking on it and so forth. And to have this interplay of people who think about similar things to what you think about and be able to exchange ideas with them is the whole purpose of this series of KTLO weekly extravaganzas. We weren't trying to replicate the experience of being, together in person, because you can't. But on the other hand, there's no beer. First of all, let me just say that. No beer, no wine, no scotch. Well, in your case, Simone, because it's late in the day there in France, you can do that. Might seem a little weird if I were sucking on a scotch here in South Carolina at 9:30 and 10 o'clock in the morning. But in any event, having this weekly session is kind of like visiting your shrink, I guess. We're visiting each other. We're all each other's shrinks.
Where's my Patty sanity?
Right here.
Hang on.
Right here.
See, there's my Patty sanity.
Sanity in a mug. There we go. And so I'm going to circle back now, and I'm going to share my screen. He confidently said. And there we go. Thank you, Simone, for compiling a complete list of all the titles of all the things that we've done. Session 1 was the longest one. Season 1, rather, was the longest season. And that was just because we hadn't planned anything about any seasons at that point. And we just got to a place where, like, let's change the format up a little bit and do some things differently. And so we said, well, let's call that season 1. Now we'll move on to season 2. And so it was very arbitrary. And then we moved on to season 2. And then we said, well, let's change up the format a little bit. Let's do some things a little bit differently. So now we're on to season 3. And I was a little surprised, actually, when I went back and reviewed some things from season 1 and realized that I used to do a lot of PowerPoint during those early ones. It was a lot of, we would talk ahead of time and we'd put together some slides, and we actually had, a pretty close outline. Then we went to the interview format later on, which worked out very, very well for us. And so this is the time when I will say that having done a year of this, season 3 comes to an end today. We, at this point, do not have future episodes planned. And that's for a bunch of reasons, one of which, we've talked about all the things that we have going on individually. And certainly we need to go in those directions and maybe not be spending as much time. But we do want to remain connected. And so we're going to figure out a way to do that. But whether it's a periodic meeting of the KTLO group, whether it is literally an online group on Facebook or LinkedIn or someplace like that, where we can discuss ideas, because I believe anyway, have all gotten value out of this. We have learned from each other and will continue to learn from each other. We're just not going to do this weekly now. And especially as things start to open up and get busy, travel starts, it's going to be much more difficult logistically to keep this going at the way we've been doing. And so it's time to move on. If we're going forward, by golly, and hence the title of today's show. Drop that thing in first and off we go. So 51 episodes, just unbelievable that we've done that much, but it has been outstanding. We have an illustrious list of people who have visited this group, and there's photographly. I just made up a word. We invent words here too, mostly me.
We made up a lot of words in the last year too.
We did make up a lot of words in the last year, some of which are repeatable. But there we have our group, Alfredo, who is with us today. Thank you, Alfredo. Mark Thomas, who is not with us today, but might be out there listening. Suresh GP. Kathy, you've been a very frequent flyer. We're so thrilled to have you along for the ride. It has been outstanding, and we will remain in touch, of course. Doug Tedder, who has been an associate of several of us for a long time. Dee, it's been awesome to have you join the party. and share your wisdom with us. And Jay Robinson, who couldn't be here today, but has certainly contributed to this group. Jeff Jensen, who was with us for an episode or two. Akshay Anand from the UK has joined us and shared his taste in rock music as well as his wisdom. Orion Mendez has joined us as well a couple of times, and she's always a delight. One of the more brilliant lights, I think, in our world. And Todd Davis, who came to us through Patty and joined us as well. It's a pretty good list of folks who have joined the party, and of course they're not all represented here in the screenshots, but it's a good batch of us there.
I just point out how Patty is eclipsing me on this slide. I just want to point that out.
Well, Patty is always eclipsing you, Greg, and it's, and rightfully so, I might add, but so there's that. This one, I enjoyed taking these screenshots. One of the things that you'll notice about every one of these screenshots is that Sanker is smiling and laughing in all of them. And I especially like the large one there, where we're doing the end of the show where we say KTLO, keeping that. Yeah, we do that thing, and except we never do it right. It's gotten to be quite a joke, but there we are.
Just the fact that our guests started joining in was just the best.
I love it. I love it.
Look at Kathy down there. She's like, touchdown.
Yeah. Exactly.
Actually, MJ looks like he's about to do a rap or a shimmy. I love it.
Haven't we had fun? Haven't we had fun? My goodness.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to change a phrase. We've talked about VUCA. And one of the things that, we talked about what it is, but one of the things I want to change the acronym to based on that, Patty, and I think you'll so agree with this, what VUCA really stands for is vibrant, unreal, crazy, and astounding.
Woohoo!
That's my new terminology for
That's
VUCA.
your new terminology. You know what comes to mind when I'm listening to this and looking at those pictures is a quote by Robert Southey that is this, and I want you all to listen because I mean it from the bottom of my heart. No distance of place or lapse of time can lessen the friendship of those who are thoroughly persuaded of each other's worth.
Oh, that's a wrap, isn't it?
Okay, the check is in the mail.
Find out who you are and go do it on purpose.
That's it. Go do it on purpose. That's great words to live by. Great words to leave by. Huh? What do you think? Words to leave by? Yeah, right. Go do it on purpose. And I think that there was a purpose in putting this together. We didn't know what it was at the time, but we kind of had an idea that maybe something good would come out of it. And I think all of us have had moments of all of the emotions that we feel, right? We felt good about it. We felt frustrated by it. We felt like shaking our fist at the screen sometimes. But we have done exactly what we set out to do, which is we kept the learning on. We have learned from each other and with each other over the course of the year. And if I had to do it all over again, no, of course I would say yes.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. What are you, nuts?
Sorry, I'm pointing at Patty now. I don't know which way she is, but
are you putting the crazy in VUCA? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. No, astounding.
So my words of wisdom, which pale to Patty's words of wisdom, are my challenge and question to you is, how are you going to keep the learning on as you face challenges and circumstances? And one of the things that I got from this group is you do it with a community of people. You do it with humility and vulnerability to just say, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm doing. And we get there together. So that's my takeaway, is expanding my community and be very intentional about staying connected with people, because you're all just brilliant people. It's like, it's a privilege to get to hear such wisdom from so many people, both in keeping the learning on here and what I do throughout my work. So thank you for being part of that.
Don't forget to fly your freak flags.
Patty is.
Patty always says, find your pocket of happiness.
Let's see. Is this my pocket of happiness? Is this? I don't know. Do I have pockets? If I didn't have pockets, what kind of pants would I be wearing?
I'm a girl.
I don't know.
Pockets.
No
You don't
pockets.
have pockets? Have you got pants?
So this has been episode 51. It's kind of like Area 51, only on YouTube. It's very similar to Area 51, but it is KTLO, keeping the learning
On.
And I think it's time to exit stage right, is what I think.
See ya.
Now, how long has this been a thing?
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't ready for that one.
Yeah.
I could have been. I could have had bat pants on.
I wasn't ready for that.